live. You can unmute us if you want.
Okay, hi everybody. Really sorry for that. I have internet from the Neolithic era, I guess. My ancestors signed a blood pact, so I was locked into a really terrible service provider for reasons that I don't quite really comprehend. My internet is just really bad. So before the stream started, it just completely shut off, and I had to go and restart it. So
Hmm.
here we are. We're back.
But if you want to emancipate Emilio from his horrible internet, why not consider checking out our Patreon?
Yeah. That money definitely would be used towards upgrading the internet because it's terrible. I watch all my YouTube videos in like 14:4. I don't even really watch them because they're very blurry.
This is why Emilio has essentially no like pop culture knowledge from the more modern era, is because he can't watch anything on his horrific internet.
Yeah, unfortunately. Um, but we're back.
I,
We're
I will
here.
say, yeah, I will say this: if you do support us enough on Patreon, the first thing we're buying is an office with an internet connection.
Yeah,
We'll rent out an office space.
yeah, a streaming place maybe be a better idea. Okay, so we're gonna start with the game, and I have been making some. Okay, well now it's not being picked up. Great
What's not being picked up?
game.
Just fiddle around with it a bit. I still have to share, and we can talk for a bit.
Okay, well that
How have you been?
well viewers at home will know this. Well, viewers at home will not know this, but I have had a terrible headache. Okay, Callum, I think the game should be viewable now. Just give it a second for the stream to update, and then
I am currently, if you can hear the ticky tack of my keyboard, it's because I'm frantically trying to share this new stream.
sure. Um,
I'm writing a very strongly worded letter to our congressman. Do we have a congress?
yeah, South Africa has a parliament, but we don't have a Congress.
A parliament, our parliamentarian. Well, I can see Streamlabs.
Oh, yeah.
you, you've created an infinite Streamlabs window, is what you've done. Okay,
Well,
there's the game.
okay, cool. So, everybody, I have been playing this game off stream in my limited amount of spare time, and as you can see by all the stars, I've been doing really, really well. Um, so I've actually been killing it at this game. In fact, we're on the electrical age. Instead of, because we started in the steam age and now we're in the electrical age. So we're going to be doing this level here called the T-Rex. Now, the T-Rex is an interesting level because firstly, if you zoom in, you can see that there's a giant T-Rex skeleton over here and a Triceratops head as well. These two things presumably are not to scale. So I guess the gimmick of this level is that there's some kind of archaeological expedition, and our intrepid train company is trying to build trains around that. Callum, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening.
Okay. Well, you never know with my internet. Okay, so the challenge for this level, for those, because I'm not gonna show you guys like the world record speedrun or anything like that, but I am trying to figure out ways to optimize it because this game is basically kind of like my job. The challenge is how do we get all these
It's
things across
how is it
this.
like your job?
Well,
Just real
this
quick.
this this game is about optimizing uh, logistics, and that's basically what I do, right?
Oh,
Fine.
it's functionally like your job. It's not that you've dedicated yourself to this game
No, 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 no.
so
There's a
much.
lot of if I had to sit down, I could draw up a table, a scheduling table for how this game works, and I could solve the level like with an algorithm and everything like that, and then I would get an optimal solution. To actually complete this whole level, because basically what it is just a logistics puzzle. Uh, that's sort of dressed up around with like fancy graphics and things like that. But ultimately,
That's like catnip to you.
yeah, it is.
This is Emilio nip.
Yeah. Ultimately, these are the things that I care about a lot. But so the problem is, the challenge of this level is we have this big giant pit in the middle, and we have all these places that we have to get stuff to. We have to get oil to a plastics factory, we have to get gold and glass to a jewelry factory, and importantly for this level, you guys will see that we have a hydroelectric dam. Now, this means that we have to generate electricity, and the plastics factory requires electricity in order to work. So we also have to be constantly generating electricity to get the plastics factory to work. So there's a lot of moving parts here. However, I do
Wait,
believe
how are we generating electricity through the conduit of train?
So we ship workers into the hydroelectric plant, and they operate the plant generating electricity, right? So as long as we have workers constantly there, this plant will generate electricity, and they can be provided to any of these buildings. But only this building, the plastics factory, actually needs it. So the challenge here that I think I figured out the optimization for is basically this region of space here. There's like 4 different things that have to connect to each other, and connecting them is actually the challenge, in such a way that we allow multiple networks of trains to move, because I have to be able to transport stuff up and away. That, then this needs to connect like this, right? So
Yes, indeed.
so that we
I didn't just completely zone out.
so we have one of
Well, you were
those,
talking about trains.
and then we need to do this.
You know what's weird?
Yeah.
Is I've noticed something about 4Kid animation dubs.
What are those?
Well, so okay, do you know what 4Kids the company is?
They make anime?
No, they localize anime.
Oh, okay.
Well, they did for a long time. They were the main sort of like localization company for anime.
Yeah.
And so they did all of them. They did One Piece. They did uh, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z, all of that. They were also very well known for censoring things.
Censoring how?
Well, like they would have people draw over it, over the animation stills. And
Okay.
sometimes it was really good. Like there was a scene in Dragon Ball Z right in the beginning where Goku basically gets a giant hole punched through his chest.
Ooh. Ouch.
Yeah, the first time he dies in the series.
Whoa.
Uh,
Hectic.
like right at the beginning of Z as well.
Okay.
And they just censored it so that it was like it just looked like a black circle. Like they basically just like took the blood out.
Okay.
But then there's really bad censoring, where like the guns in One Piece got censored to be these weird Willy Wonka abomination contraptions that make no sense. But they're still talked about like their guns, and like characters who are smoking get lollipops instead. And
That's funny.
my favorite one is in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, one of the characters, Chumley. Also, they came up with English names for all the characters, and it's insane. It is insane. Like, Jaden Yuki is supposed to be Judai Yuki, so, like, that's fine. That makes sense. But one of them is Chumley Huffington. And, like, what? What? But anyway, his dad is a sake salesman. Like, clearly he owns, like, a sake company.
Yeah. The alcohol.
But 4Kids censored it to be hot sauce,
That's
and they did
what?
they
Why?
did this by photoshopping the sake bottles to make them pink, and putting a bunch of like clip art of chili peppers on them. But it's like in a different drawing style than Yu-Gi-Oh is,
That's
so it's super obvious.
This is so bonkers. Oh my word. Why did it?
Also, in that episode, Chumley's dad has a duel, and all of his cards are very clearly supposed to be drunk people.
Yeah.
But they just, but like the episode is written in such a way that it's implied that they just like drank too much hot sauce, which now makes it canon that in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX English dub universe, hot sauce makes you drunk.
That's ridiculous. That's so silly.
It's incredible. Like it the dub of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is maybe one of my favorite cultural things ever. It's really there's nothing like it. Like going and experiencing the actual story of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a good story, and then going and experiencing the dub is like this is a different thing.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. So,
But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, 4Kids dubs. 4Kids. I've noticed that they always put like a German character in, and the German character is almost always either Arnold Schwarzenegger or like uh nervous German.
okay. Okay. Wait, just hang
Are
on a
you there?
second. Yeah, I'm there. I just had an issue with my audio.
Ah,
Okay.
we're back on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're back. Okay. So
we're back.
the 4Kids, not the best localizers I'm hearing from you. That's what you're saying.
But they did give me a lot of beloved childhood memories. And like I was saying, they always include, like I can remember two separate shows that both had German, like side characters, and the voice is always either Arnold Schwarzenegger, which it was for Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
Wait, the actual Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, it was just an impression of him.
Okay.
There was a character who his whole thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was that his cards were like super rare, like they were the only ones of their kind in the world, and they all had spirits inside of them. So they all talked.
Oh, that's cool.
And so they all need voices.
Oh no.
And the giant elephant was Arnold Schwarzenegger for some reason. He was just like all the time, just constantly.
Maybe
And I
somebody
remember
was a
there was
huge
another.
fan of Predator or something.
What a wild like. What a wild pull to have, of all people, Arnold Schwarzenegger in your Yu-Gi-Oh adaptation.
Well, it's
What's
like
the overlap, do
it's
you
like
think, between?
it's like you know how Kojima like always wants to make a movie, you know? Like he's
Yeah,
obsessed with
Kojima's been making movies you can play for years.
Yeah, so he's obsessed with making movies, but like thing is, um he's obsessed with like Hollywood media in general, right? So, what if like the creators of well, not the creators, but what if the people at 4Kids or whatever, what if they're like super into 80s action movies and stuff?
Well, at that point, it would have just been pop culture, because that was all like 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. But yeah, I mean,
So probably they were just like pop culture people, and you know what would have happened? Is that Japan very frequently gave American studios like anime that they were just like, hey, like the Japanese studio that originally made it was just like, hey, this isn't popular, so yeah, do whatever you want with it.
yeah. This is the scraps, basically.
Yeah, that's what happened with Ghost Stories, and it infamously has a very weird dub.
Translation is a art. It's
Oh,
not
they
just it's not just about saying things in the other
yeah,
language. It's about communicating a lot of complicated stuff. And
metaphors and things like that.
language is an imperfect medium in a lot of ways. Um, okay, so I
It
just want
doesn't
to. Oh no, go ahead.
it doesn't help that a lot of the jokes in like anime and manga are puns that only work in Japanese.
Oh yeah, that must be really annoying to have to deal with.
Dude, every single manga I read has like at some point it will have an editor's note, like a translator's note that goes like, "Hey, so this is a pun because he actually says like hio in Japanese instead of hayo, and hio means like vagina and hayo means cat or whatever." So it's like this is a pun that he's doing. And it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah. You know, and Japanese is not like the most user-friendly language to begin with, right? So
No.
it's
It's all going according to Keikaku.
yeah.
Keikaku means plan. I love that that's become like a new thing, is like just saying a meme and immediately having someone you can feel them imagine it.
Yeah, it's, language has evolved in some ways. The internet has made it so that language is both hyper specific but also super accessible because, we all watch various types of medias, so we all pick up what other people are putting down. And,
Yeah.
especially in the case of Japan and anime, because that's just super popular because, lots of people watch anime all over the world, and it's become something that's not hyper specific to Japan anymore. Well, I guess the funny thing is it both is and it isn't, right? Because Japan is still the place where most of the anime is produced, but a lot of the consumption is outside of Japan, which means that you have like American fans of anime and South African fans of anime, and we're all fans of anime except the anime that we're consuming is very strange.
Well, here's the thing is that like you say most anime is made in Japan. Some of it so I don't know if there's different words for it because there is different words for the written medium. So like a manga is a comic written in Japan, but a manhwa, WHA, is written in Korea.
Okay, I
Like
thought
that's the Korean equivalent.
okay, so the way that you said that, it sounds like Hank Hill.
Manhwa.
Yeah, he was like trying to.
Damn it, Bobby.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Dale, we live in Texas. If it gets one more degree hotter, I'm gonna kick your ass.
They're making a King of the Hill sequel show, and it's about Bobby who's grown up. Did you know they were doing that?
I did not, but Bobby was the best character in that show, so like I can see that being successful.
He's grown up and he's got tattoos and he's like a chef or something in Austin.
Okay. I don't love the practice of like 20 years later a sequel.
He's basically become Bob's Burgers, but in Texas.
Bobby's Burgers.
Yeah, Bobby's Burgers.
Bobby, that boy ain't right.
Okay, so before we continue, I do want to explain the solution for this, because for those of you who might, be looking at this video for some reason for gameplay purposes, the challenge here basically is that this big open pit means that you can't make a direct line between all the major connections. I think that the optimal solution, and I actually completed this level before with the suboptimal solution, which is to snake a path here and create a bridge over this like little piece of water. That's suboptimal. You have to solve it by putting a bridge here and putting another bridge here and connecting, the map that way. It does mean that you've got to be very careful because you have one central line that connects both sides of your production. So it's easy to cause a train crash if, two trains are going and you don't really realize. So you've got to be very vigilant. But I think this is going to be ultimately how we're going to get 5 stars. We have to manage this central route here without any train crashes. Okay, back to
Okay. I do have a question.
Yes.
Orcs from Warhammer.
Yes.
Are they only in Warhammer, or are they also? Is there like an orc equivalent in Warhammer 40k?
Yeah, so orcs are actually the same in Warhammer and in Warhammer 40k.
Hey.
The assumption that has always been made, basically, about orcs is that they are the same species, just transplanted into a different context. So, what the early edition of Warhammer lore kind of suggested was that Warhammer's fantasy orcs are Warhammer 40k orcs, that their spores hitched a ride on the ancient Old One spaceships, and then they just sort of germinated in the Warhammer Fantasy world. But they don't have access to the technology that Warhammer 40k had. So the orcs have regressed to like a primitive feral state, which is
I
basically
see.
sort of the argument there. But they are, for all intents and purposes, the exact same thing.
I
Just
did not know that orcs were spores.
yeah,
Like I didn't know that they were like plant-based.
orcs are fungus. So when an orc dies, what will happen is that its body will release a bunch of spores, and these spores will then germinate into new orcoid species.
I'm smiling so much right now.
Why?
Because I was like one of the things about our friendship is that I've right at the beginning of the history of this channel, and I would say our friendship because we started this pretty soon after we became friends, is that I didn't like Warhammer
Yeah.
because I thought it was like too uber serious and like kind of it was a bit silly. And then no, but the thing is, no one told me about the orcs. And I found out about the orcs in Warhammer, and they became like my favorite thing ever.
They are commonly referred to as the comic relief faction in Warhammer. But the thing is, and
They're the best.
I would, I would, I would necessarily caution you maybe from assuming entirely that they are completely comic relief. And the reason for that is because the orcs still do a lot of heinous stuff over the course of the story. Like
Yeah, but who doesn't? It's
yeah,
Warhammer.
yeah, no, that is true. It's just that I think maybe sometimes people lose track of that fact. Uh, they sort of lose sight of the fact that the orcs are pretty dang evil, relatively speaking, because they're anarchic in that sense. They don't care about anything except for causing, more fights. So
Yeah, but like they're fun.
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, like if you're an orc player and you're not doing wacky hijinks and stuff, you're playing the orcs incorrectly, right? The way to play them is to play them as if they were football hooligans who are just having, the time of their lives.
But you see, if you had told me about the orcs beforehand, I would have wanted to play Warhammer with you.
Really?
Specifically so I could play as the orc. I kind of want to play Warhammer now if I get to play as orcs.
Well, I mean, you can. I'm going to be teaching in the War Games Club. I'm going to be teaching people how to play Warhammer: The Old World. Orcs are the faction in that game.
Hey. I mean, okay, so but like the 40k orcs,
Yes.
they obviously have the technology. Does that mean that they don't Hey Nate, we have a chat person in chat called Nate Hall who says, "What a coincidence, I play orcs." Hell yeah.
Hey, nice.
You and me, power of belief. Let's go.
What kind of orc army do you have? Do you have like a squig army or a tank army or something like that? That's always cool to find out. Because the nice thing about orc armies is that you can it's pretty much accepted that you can basically do what you want. I've seen like a Mr. Potato Head orc vehicle. somebody turned a Mr. Potato Head into like a war mech, and I thought to myself, yeah, that's what the orcs would do if they had access to a Mr. Potato Head.
But I want to ask, so 40k orcs obviously have more technology. Do they still have that system where they paint things a certain color and their belief in that what that color means affects it?
Yeah, that's the thing from 40k. You're referring to the red ones go faster, right?
Yeah, is that from 40k?
That's
I
from
thought that was
40K.
the old one.
No, that's from 40k. Because orcs in that game have vehicles. And
Oh, okay.
those vehicles are like a core part of the gameplay experience.
Okay. Because I think that's probably the coolest thing I've ever heard. Is like that specifically makes me want to play orcs. Is that whole thing of like, oh, we believe red makes you go fast, so it does.
Yeah.
That rules.
No,
Okay,
it
so
totally
Nate,
does, right?
yeah.
I've played against an orc player many times before. I've been tabled by one. That was pretty embarrassing. Well, he played really, really well, but I think I lost the game on like turn one.
Whoa.
Because his orc army was just hyper mobile and they got into close combat very quickly. I had deployed very badly. It was all over on turn one. But like playing an orc army is a high risk, high reward kind of situation because if you get
That's
unlucky,
the best way to play games.
yeah, I mean they heavily depend on your ability to manage the chaos that is your orc army. And like if things start to go against you or you roll badly, the tide can turn very quickly, and also your shooting is just bad. So the common,
You
the common meme is that you'll have like a million dice that you'll have to roll for your orc shooting, and then you're only going to hit on sixes and stuff like that.
My friend, what you were describing to me is basically the Warhammer equivalent of playing red in Magic the Gathering, which is my favorite color in that game because it is, simply put, chaos. It's high risk, high reward. It can go super well or it can go super bad, and you're gonna find out. But real quick, Nate says that they play motorized infantry with looted vehicles.
Oh,
Uh,
nice,
Yeah, that
nice.
sounds really cool. And they say, yes, it does, but they still haven't bought the newest codex. So I think that was in reference to when you said you can play orcs in any way, or maybe our discussion of the 40k orcs or something. And they as you were talking about how much dice you have to roll, they said don't forget the bucket of dice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every orc player that I've ever played against has a special bucket for all their dice to roll because orcs generate just enormous amounts of dice that you have to roll. And the thing is,
Um,
you're not gonna hit with all of them. You'd be
let
very
me
lucky to. Um,
let
you
me
know.
get the official wording on this because I do, just to let you know how very close this is to my favorite uh like Magic the Gathering strategies. The only reason I don't play this in Magic the Gathering, let me say, is because no one likes playing against it.
Oh, that kind of
It's
sucks.
it's the worst, and you'll find out why. It's called Planar Chaos. It's an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, sacrifice this card. And whenever a player casts a spell, that player flips a coin. If they lose the flip, counter that spell. But there's another one. Uh, I forget exactly what it's called. It basically says like whenever you play a card, put that card on the bottom of your library and then flip the top card of your library, and that's the card you play.
It's fascinating. That is
Yeah,
like a
it's chaos decks. Everyone hates chaos decks in Magic because they ruin your plans.
Well, I would definitely describe orcs as a faction of people who will easily ruin your plans if you let them, right? If you
Mm.
allow the orc players to run away with the victory, you will easily find yourself destroyed. Um, but the fun is really if you play orcs, it's about having fun, win or lose. Uh, it's a definitely yeah, it's not the kind of game for it's not I would say the army for people who want to be hyper competitive. Um,
Oh yeah, but that's perfect for me. So if you want to get me into Warhammer, dude, throw some orcs my way.
yeah, I mean, I was looking at the because the orcs in Warhammer: The Old World they are pretty cool nowadays. They have very nice abilities. And we're big on goblins as well these days. One of the most OP units right now in Warhammer: The Old World is the goblin, uh, the fanatics. They have these giant wrecking balls, and they will they will kill your best troops with this giant wrecking
I
ball.
love
Because
goblins.
they hop the goblins up on fungus brew or something like that, and they get like super super drunk before they fight, and it causes them to be hyper like immune to pain and stuff. So it's pretty funny, I think. Uh,
That's awesome. Oh, by the way, I believe Nate has already left, but they say just real quick, their parting words. 30 rolls, 2 hits, they're absorbed by saves. And their final message was, "I'm off to Thanksgiving. You two have fun, and remember, nobody has seen a purple orc."
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that's
do
true.
know the joke of that.
Yeah.
That's I love this. Like, I can't believe I spent so long looking at Warhammer and being like, I don't get this at all. I don't understand why anyone would like this. And then I find out about orcs and it's like, oh, no one told me where the fun was.
Yeah, I think the problem I think that Warhammer has is that it is traditionally kind of difficult to get into, right?
Mm,
And Games Workshop have done a lot to try and make the game less esoteric, but there are still barriers to entry that can only come from the fact that this is just a difficult game to play, And
mm.
okay, it looks like I'm probably not gonna make the best time. Let's see how well I can do.
All right, I found the card if you want to hear about some of the nonsense you can pull in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, sure, hit me.
This is a card from Dragon Maze, which came out in 2013, I want to say.
Yeah.
It's called Possibility Storm. It's an
Okay.
enchantment that says whenever a player casts a spell, all cards in Magic the Gathering are called spells
Yeah.
from their hand. That player exiles it, then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a card that shares a card type with that spell. That player may cast that card without paying its mana cost. They then put all cards exiled with Possibility Storm on the bottom of the library in a random order. So what that means is that you play this card, you play like a creature that costs 1, and you exile from the top of your library until you find another creature, and then you play that for free.
Okay.
And it's pure. This is chaos because it says whenever a player. That means all players do this, not just you.
Okay.
It's
That.
the best, and everyone hates it. Because it means if you came up with a plan for a card you had in your hand, that doesn't matter anymore because you have to exile until you find the next thing, and it could do nothing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It could be like a counter spell, but there's nothing to counter because you're the only person who played something.
Yeah.
Also, Chaos decks make Magic games go on for, instead of a Commander game in Magic happening for like an hour, hour and a half to maybe 2 or 3 hours, Chaos decks make them go on for 5 hours.
I don't know if I would ever play. I mean, I've played Warhammer games that are like 5 hours, but I don't think I would ever play a Magic game that's 5 hours. It seems like
Oh,
it's too
there
much.
is nothing quite as exhausting as getting like 2.5 hours into one Magic game and then seeing someone go like, "Hey boys, I'm just gonna wipe the board real quick. Let's start this one again." And then you just go like, "Man, I just want to go home, please."
Yeah, we did it. I got five
Hey, hey,
stars. I thought it. I
victory.
Yeah. I knew my plan was gonna work. The question is whether or not I could actually do it. Yeah, and
Hey.
wow. Okay, so there are people here who are making huge amounts of money. So I did not make a lot of money on this level, but okay.
I feel like you could just at any point, if I die at any point in my life, you could put that on my tombstone. I did not make a lot of money on this level.
Okay, but that was the T-Rex level. How are we doing for time?
Hey, we've only been streaming for half an hour.
Okay,
So we're good for maybe another full level.
cool. Uh, right. So that
I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter lately.
yeah.
Monster Hunter World.
Yes. That's
And Monster
the
Hunter's yeah?
that's the one before the new one, right?
No. No, it's the one before, it's the like penultimate one.
Okay.
The one before the new one was Monster Hunter Rise.
Okay.
But I kind of prefer World because Rise is more focused on combat and the arenas are like smaller. And I just sort of prefer World's like World, really. And also Rise has a bunch of other stuff that I saw and I was just like, I don't love this.
Hmm.
I don't like the dogs. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like I
Yeah,
love dogs.
you're a cat
I
person.
but not even that. It's like okay, so in Monster Hunter you get this thing called a palico, which is like your partner.
Yeah, it's your cat.
But they're like yeah, it's the small cat person. They provide healing and like also attack the monster, and occasionally they like distracted while you're, you know, sharpening your weapon or something. And the idea is that you and your palico sort of go off together. You're equal partners. You eat together. You have fun, whatever. And then they also added a dog in Monster Hunter Rise that you can ride sometimes, and it's just like this feels like it's officially too much, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think the thing about Monster Hunter is it has to straddle a very fine line between ridiculous and not ridiculous. Because
Or like fun and over designed.
yeah, because one of the major issues that I think you can get in this game, especially if you're just thinking about like the visual language and all of that stuff, is that yeah, actually it is possible for you to make something that is too visually busy, you know,
Yeah.
and
It's
it
like
just
do you remember that sword ranking we did a while back
yeah, I do.
with Miles?
Yes.
It we talked briefly in it about how like Frostmourne has a really bad silhouette.
Yeah, it's very visually cluttered as far
And
as
that's
swords go.
I think that's a big thing with like Monster Hunter is that the silhouettes are kind of rough. So having like Rise, I think has a problem with there being a lot on screen and like the environments being slightly smaller to encourage like more fighting and things like that. It doesn't give you that same feeling of like going and tracking and hunting a monster and that sort of adventurous thing. But also, it I don't know, it felt like the camera was too close in Rise. There was a lot of problems with it, but I do agree with you that having too much on screen can muddle those silhouettes, and that's how you figure out like that's how you get your bearings.
Yeah, it's just it's like the thing is, Monster Hunter is about a very singular kind of thing because there's not. If you think about it, it's just a series of continuous boss fights, right? Yeah, I mean, there's a little
Mm.
bit of fighting against smaller creatures, but for the most part, each the core gameplay loop is about fighting really ginormous creatures, and
Yeah, with like by either by yourself or with your friends.
yeah, and so uh, in order for you to really get into that experience, you have to. And the other thing is, it's not like a JRPG where it's about like picking items from a menu. Monster Hunter is fundamentally about skill, right? It's about actually being able to play the game correctly, you know. Uh, so if you can't do that because your screen is just full of information and you get oversaturated, then you're not really gonna have a good time.
Yeah, and like like I brought up, it's a game that you play either on your own and or with your friends. And if I'm feeling like visually overwhelmed, yeah, I maybe I haven't played Rise in a while, so maybe I'm kind of misremembering it. But I did feel like it was less. It was a bit more taxing on my brain than Monster Hunter World was.
Hmm.
And if I'm already feeling like that with just me on the screen, can you imagine adding three other people
Yeah,
like jumping in the air, doing somersaults, spin slashes?
yeah, it gets to be a bit much, certainly.
Mm. Oh, I was actually thinking today. So you know how I've been doing that like I don't want to talk too much about it because the friend I'm doing it for watches these streams, but I've been doing a drawing for my friend for their birthday, and it's quite a detailed one.
Yeah.
I was thinking at some point, once I finish this, depending on how it looks, I might, because you and I had a conversation not too long ago about like, what our vibes are vis-a-vis if we were Monster Hunter characters,
Yeah.
and I might draw you as like in your whole gun lance thing.
Yeah, so we talked about this. It was actually a fascinating conversation because I genuinely, I'm very interested in Monster Hunter as a video game, even though I haven't played a lot of it. Um, Mostly just because Monster Hunter is the kind of game where I think you need a lot of time to like really
Yeah,
sink your teeth into the core mechanisms and stuff. But Callum was like, he was like, oh, Emilio, what are my vibes in Monster Hunter? And then I'm like, okay, well, Callum, you're obviously a dual sword wielding, light attack kind of person.
which is wild to me because like I never would have called that because
Yeah.
I'm in no way dexterous or fast as
Yeah,
a
but
human
yeah,
being.
but Callum, we're not talking about if we're in this fictional world here where we're doing Monster Hunter stuff. Nobody is actually capable of doing any of that stuff, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about like skill in relation to the game. I'm talking about like vibes in general. What part of my vibes made you think dual sword wielding?
I think like it's like you strike me as a kind of person who would be cracking a lot of quips and stuff like that when you're fighting the monster, and that just seems like a dual sword wielding kind of thing.
I'm the worst person in the movie, but I'm the one that everyone wants to shut up.
You're played by Chris Pratt.
I'm the robot dude from Destiny.
No, well, I also said insect wave, right? Because one thing that I know about you is that you love Pokemon, and I'm like, oh yeah, that insect wave is the kind of because you have a little buddy, right?
No, but I hate bugs,
Yeah, I know, but
and I'm not good with heights.
that's the other. Look, look, I
I,
don't
don't-
think I.
I fear you don't know me as well as you
I
think you
don't
do.
look. I don't think I could physically hold up a because the thing is, I don't think you would be suited for a ranged weapon because I feel like the other thing is the weapon like the dual sword strikes me as the kind of thing for somebody who's like thinking on their feet. They're
Yeah, I get you, but like I really thought you would have said like longsword because
it
I'm
did
such
cross
a
my mind.
giant weeb.
It did cross my mind, but the thing is, it's called longsword, but what they actually mean is katana.
Well, I mean, it depends. Like some of them do genuinely just look like regular longswords, but yeah, but even so, like I said, I am an enormous weeb.
I could see
You
that.
think if I was given the opportunity to hold a katana, I wouldn't immediately take it?
Yeah, but consider this: the two sword mechanism can also include two katanas, right? I'm pretty sure I've seen that.
I think so. I
I'm
think
pretty.
so. It's just like also here's something about Monster Hunter that I always forget when I start the game is that the weapons are way bigger than you think they are.
They're ginormous. They are truly massive things, right? Which is why my favorite weapon, which is the gun lance, I could never pick that up. I don't think it's physically possible for
I
any
don't think
person.
a human could do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a ginormous weapon, right? But I like it
And forget
because
about the shield. Like the shield in this game is like two of you.
yeah, and you're doing all of this while wearing armor as well. I really don't think it's a realistic demonstration of what is possible for people to do. But all that being said, I do think the gun lance is a weapon that innately speaks to me, to the point that I actually built one out of Lego. I have one in my Lego collection.
Well, one day I'm gonna draw you as your gun lance original character.
Yeah, my gun soda. Do not
Yeah.
steal.
Do not steal, or my Second Amendment rights will come into play.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of funny though, because I did give you a gift, which was Callum Bard Sona.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've shared it with the like on the Discord or anything. I might have. But Emilio commissioned an artist to draw me as like an adventuring bard, and it's one of the best things I've ever seen.
it you see, Callum, I do know you, so I incorporated lots of details in that
Yeah, no,
commission.
I was joking. You know me very well.
I incorporated a lot of details in that commission that I thought were like really Callum specific, because for example, the bard has like Egyptian themed equipment and a khopesh just
Yeah.
like there in a really
Yeah.
cool khopesh scabbard, which is actually like don't.
Which is the first thing you boasted to me about.
Okay, no, because
Which is, I find that hilarious.
it's like
Because you're the only one I know who would notice that.
because there's so much debate in the historical community about like how kopeshes were carried, right? Because we don't exactly have
Is
a lot of,
there?
yeah, we don't have a lot of surviving evidence for how they were actually carried, right? So it's super experimental, and I'm like, oh, that's like a quick draw kopesh kind of deal because you can easily extract it. And I'm like, oh yeah, because if you get
Stick
into,
him up.
yeah, if you get into a sword fight, you need to whip out that kopesh quickly.
Yeah. Hey, partner.
Howdy.
Hold
Fogger.
on there, little miss.
Just imagining like a guy.
Howdy, Cleo.
Yeah, he's like riding the good, the bad, and the ugly, but they're all riding camels.
Yeah. He just like, he steps out, pulls off his hat, and he's got like a headdress on underneath. He's like, whoa there. Everyone hold down.
Yeah, and there are.
You put down that sword, and by the love of Ra, I'll kill you.
That sounded like you were drifting into Hank Hill territory there, sir.
No, Hank Hill is like, it's slower and kind of higher. It's like, damn it, Bobby.
Well, I guess it depends, right? Because I've heard him be more blasé, and I've heard him be more chill. So I guess it depends.
You're not making Christian music cooler. You're just making rock lamer.
Yeah. So there are other like details there included, like for example, your character has a book of poems instead of a traditional
Yes.
like instrument, and I thought that was like a cool detail because Callum is very bard coded, but not really playing an instrument, or more writing poetry, and I just thought that was like a cool fun detail.
And I like that a lot. I really love the all of the details you put in, because we talked about them a little bit, and it's one of my favorite things, like how well you know me. It's genuinely, it made me very happy. I also like that I'm bard coded, because if I was in a fantasy world, I would never become a bard.
Well,
I truly, like, I cannot imagine doing that as my adventuring job.
You see, the thing is, it's one thing to sit here and play D&D and, inhabit a role. It's another thing to be like, oh, this is my actual life. This is like my actual career that I have to do. And I can do like magic from it, It's just
Yeah, it's just that, like, I don't love the idea that something I enjoy doing, which is writing stories and making up poems and stuff like that, is the tool I use to hurt people.
Yeah, but unfortunately for things, unfortunately for D&D, it's just like the language of violence is so inextricably linked to Dungeons and Dragons that it's not really like in real life. Obviously, people are not necessarily just going about fighting each other and all of that stuff. Most people don't get into sword fights or gunfights or whatever on a day-to-day basis. But D&D sort of presupposes by necessity that you are involving yourself in all of this crazy stuff, because otherwise you don't really have an adventure, do you?
Yeah, but if I had to pick a D&D class for myself, to live in, I would probably go for something like a fighter or like a rogue.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then I would do like poetry and stuff on the side. Just like for me, just for fun.
Yeah,
I would do like trench poetry.
Yeah, you'd be like a Wilfred Owens kind of guy, or a Siegfried Sassoon. I believe that's his name.
I love how you have these just like cocked and loaded.
Well,
finally an opportunity to bring out Siegfried Sassoon.
I really enjoyed literature class in high school. Contrary to what people think about me, a STEM lord, is that I really enjoyed literature class, and I think that a lot of those war poems were really, really, really heavy,
Yeah.
and it just sort of always stuck with me that these guys were in some of the worst living conditions imaginable, fighting, some of the most destructive conflicts in human history, and they were still finding time to make poetry, you know?
I think it's great because it truly is representative of like how poetry occupies your mind once you get into it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because I have never understood poetry very well. But I've written a few poems that some of my friends have really liked. And I don't like sit around and like plan them
Hmm.
because I have no intention of becoming good at poetry or selling my poetry or anything. I just like doing it for fun. But how I do it is that when I get like a strong enough feeling, I then write a poem about it.
Yeah.
I use that feeling and then find like imagery in my head based on it and then write poetry about that. And it does make you feel better. It almost feels like processing your feelings in such a good way. So I can fully understand why people in a dire situation who just have a lot of time on their hands between now and dying would go like, well, I'd like to process these
No,
feelings.
for sure, absolutely. I write poems. I try to write like poems every year.
Hmm?
So I try to write at least maybe a couple poems every year, and usually I'm trying to think about like what am I going to write about. And a lot of the times, really, the process of writing the poem is just about feeling the right headspace. It's about feeling the
Yeah.
correct feeling to get me in the mood to actually write this thing. Because poems are not something that come easy to a lot of people. I certainly think that um, in a lot of cases, poetry is actually really unintuitive for people. Especially if you're
Yeah,
used to
no,
just writing prose.
it is a very tough thing to get into on a technical level because it seems like the rules change frequently.
Well,
It's like when you first learn about poetry, it's like, oh, it rhymes. And then when you learn about poetry a bit deeper, it's like, your poetry rhymes? What are you, a fucking hack? Hey, you some kind of loser fascist with rhyming poetry?
yeah, I like to write sonnets, so that's like my particular vibe. Is I really enjoy writing sonnets, and that's
Yeah.
because I'm a huge hack and I like Shakespeare. Uh,
Yeah.
I
What's that?
will.
I was watching an Instagram reel earlier today, which was talking about this like I think it was like a Republican guy who was making fun of trans people by dressing up as like a woman and putting on makeup and stuff and being like, "Oh, I'm a woman now." But the thing is that people pointed out in his comment section that he's never worn the same outfit twice.
Oh yeah, damn.
And
That means he
and
has like a whole wardrobe of them.
but the person who was in the video that was like talking about this was like, there's a quoted tweet of this where someone said, if a man writes you a sonnet, he loves you, but if a man writes you 10 sonnets, he loves sonnets. And like at a certain point, this person's gonna have to just come to terms with the fact that they might actually just be a trans woman if they love doing this so much.
A lot of Republicans are very like there is this stereotype that a lot of Republicans are actually very closeted. And there's this common joke that you see is that whenever the GOP are in power, like Grindr gets way more active users,
Yeah, yeah,
and I certainly think there's some merit to this idea. I don't want to suggest that all of them are closeted because I think that obviously does a huge disservice to the banality of evil that is just regular conservatives. They are not
yeah.
um, they are not at all incapable of just being evil for the sake of it. But I think that shoot, I think
I,
that
I think it's like in a lot of cases, it is a case of they've been raised in an environment where they do have these feelings and they have had these feelings, but they've been told like it's those shameful feelings. And then they see people who get to just have them and not be ashamed, and then they get angry at those people.
yeah. A big part of it is just fundamentally that they have like no emotional regulation, right?
Yeah, they can't process the fact like that it's okay and you don't have to like it's okay to both leave people alone and to be whoever you are as long as it's not like actively hurting people. And then they can't process that, so they just like take it out. They just go like, no, it's wrong, I must fight.
Yeah,
That's trench poetry right
yeah,
there.
yeah. Yeah,
Ill-state fishing, what's up?
the fight or flight instinct for sure kicks in with these guys, and then you're kind of it it's it's genuinely wacky, I think, in some respects, because you know you're sitting here thinking, okay, well, surely these people won't do this, and surely they won't do that. But the reality of the matter is, yes, they will, and they are very capable of holding mutually contradictory ideas in their heads at the same time. That's like one of
Mm.
the things about the GOP that you gotta get, is that they are perfectly capable of having these immense weird contradictions that seemingly shouldn't actually function, and yet they do. You know.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the whole thing about like I don't want to say conservatives in general, but like I remember that was the whole thing about fascism is that it basically like eats itself. It gets so contradictory at a certain point that it just like it can't survive.
Mm, mm, when it comes
Um
to, oh yeah, sorry.
no, I was just gonna if we were done talking about that, I was gonna be like I thought of another quote that is fun.
All right, hit me.
It's I rewatched The Good Place recently.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes from that show is like, there's an old Chinese saying, which is that lies are like tigers. They're bad. And it's
um,
like, fuck yeah.
right. I think this level is actually very tricky. It doesn't seem that difficult, but surprisingly tricky, because these guys want canned products. These guys want steel, and you can see that I'm running a lot of trains because I'm not allowed to upgrade anything.
Mm.
I'm also not allowed to
Oh,
stop any
because it's not the
trains.
stars.
Yeah. I'm also not allowed to stop any trains as well, which means that I'm kind of in a bit of a
You're in
pickle.
a speed situation.
Yeah. I'm in a speed situation.
You have to be on 55 rails at all times.
Yeah. um, okay, I think I might be able to do it because I think I figured out that that pipeline over there, that tunnel there, was necessary from the beginning.
You know, I've never seen Speed.
I think the funny thing about the Speed franchise is that the first movie has Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock and a lot of like high-ranking actors, and it's generally regarded as like a great movie. And then the second one, the second Speed, is extremely low rent, produced on a low budget. It's generally regarded as a bad, sort of sequel, and they don't even have Keanu Reeves back, as well. That's also
That that kind of rules, though. I do love that. I do. I've another franchise that I've been meaning to get into that I just haven't was Blade,
Blade. Oh yeah,
the
the Wesley
vampire
Snipes.
one
Oh
with
yeah,
Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard that the first two Blade movies are fantastic, but I was watching a stream the other day where someone talked about the third Blade movie, and that like the ending stream is something the ending scene of that movie is something you really just need to go watch, and I watched it. And apparently Wesley Snipes did not want to be in that movie at all. He was like impossible to work with.
Yeah, the funny thing about becoming it's kind of like a curse, right? Where if you play a successful character in a movie or whatever, then you can very easily get typecast into that role. And once that happens, then you're stuck.
Yeah. I think it's also like people get into a point of like if I just keep saying yes, then they will bring me back for this forever. Like this series will never end and it will eventually just become crap. And
Yeah.
I think like I because I remember you telling me about like the thing about Blade Runner where we were talking about that in the Dark Souls stream and Harrison Ford was called back to ADR the narration and he just didn't want to be there.
Oh yeah. It's I describe it as the world's least interested narration, right? I cannot imagine a person who less wants to do that than what Harrison Ford was forced to do.
And to me, in that moment, she appeared to not be a replicant, but just a girl.
it's
And it's
it's
like, thank
me,
you.
guy. You're the Blade Runner, or he was incredibly demotivated to do it, which is
It's
just
me, John Blade Runner.
it just part of what makes it so terrible is that American test audiences basically were the reason why that dialogue had to be added, because people
Oh, because
didn't.
they didn't get it?
Yeah, they didn't get it. They found generally that the movie was uh, difficult to understand without this additional dialogue.
That
So
sucks. It
for
is not.
for some reason they decided to ruin the movie.
They were like, well, we better burn it.
Yeah.
People didn't like the seats on our boat. Let's set it on fire for a while. Maybe that'll sort it out.
Yeah, it was, it was genuinely, it was like, oh, okay, so, nobody understands this movie. I guess we better just burn it down to the
Explain it
ground.
to them.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of like how early video games didn't really like tell you their story, but they had a like book inside the box that you could take out and read the story. Man, I kind of miss that though. Like I miss having the little booklet where it's like this is the world of whatever. Come and see it, and then they have a little map and everything, and they explain all the characters and stuff, and then you just play the game. And then you'd get into the game, and the game was just like a platformer, and it's like, this doesn't translate at all.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like a lot of video games, the art of good world building was initially, it was, they had these manuals because they didn't have the space for anything else, right?
Yeah, there was no.
You couldn't fit cutscenes or anything like that. Like, you had such a tight budget on how you were able to spend your limited
Yeah, I
processing
mean, that's
power.
why Final Fantasy VII came on 3 discs.
Yeah, yeah.
It was an enormously long game. But, like, by today's standards, wasn't that long.
No, no, no. I mean,
Not that much content.
it's fascinating, genuinely, how our perception about like what a long video game is has changed, like, fundamentally in some ways, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I played God of War Ragnarok. I platinumed it, and I think I've been playing that game for 80 something hours. And that's not that long. Like, I'll go through my Steam library and I'll see like, oh, I have 160 hours, or no, like 260 hours on Elden Ring. Because
Damn.
I've restarted it like 50 times to try out character builds
Yeah.
or something, and I play the first 5 hours of the game. And like I'll like when I played Hollow Knight on stream, I realized that I got to the Radiant
Yeah.
at the end of the game, which is like the true boss,
Yeah. The true
the
boss.
true secret boss, which is a giant moth that
Well,
shoots laser beams.
Well, it both is and it isn't the true secret boss, because
It's the true ultimate secret boss. Don't
there's-
listen to pay no attention to
'cause-
the Emilio behind the trains.
because there's also God Seeker mode, and
Yeah, but no.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about it.
I
as
need
well.
my thumbs for things. I can't.
Yeah, it's like, who genuinely can, who can do that?
I like the idea of having to earn your truest secret ending. I also like the idea that you have to earn it through skill, but like having to play the game essentially deathless. That's not what this game taught me. This game taught me go in there, fight it once, die, learn its patterns, and then do it correctly. Not like ace this on your first try, please.
Mm.
But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I fought the Radiant, and I saw that I had 38 hours on the game when I had started fighting the Radiant. I did it a few times on stream, and I was like, I'm so tired of this. I'm just gonna try and beat it off stream. I'll record myself and I'll upload the winning attempt if I get there. And I did, and I stopped recording myself at a certain point, and then I got back and did another stream of it, and I checked the game, and I had 48 hours. I had spent 10 hours on that boss and I
Oh
hadn't
god.
beaten it, and I just managed to beat it on stream. And it was so wild. But like, yeah, that's video games used to take me a weekend,
Mm.
you know?
Well, how are we for time?
We are 1 hour and 6 minutes past time.
Okay, so how much? Well, what is the current time now?
It is 7:37. So we can cool down, wrap up,
Yeah.
go
Okay.
off King
So
if you want to.
I almost got 5 stars on Siberia. I think I was like 20 seconds off. So I think I could probably. So the problem is with some of these levels, you have to have. It's about not just planning; it's also about execution, right? I think I had a fairly optimal route, um, but I think you just have to sit and focus and not like think about other stuff. And obviously, talking on stream and stuff like that definitely takes away your focus. There's a
Yeah.
guy who's I'm watching you play like a really difficult game, and he still tries to talk during the game, and it's like, oh yeah, obviously if you're talking, your performance is going to degrade. I just want to show you guys the next level, which is the Panama Canal. Now this level is pretty infamous because the
It has a
canal,
crashed boat in it.
well, the canal will actually open. So periodically, what's going to happen is they are going to complete these segments of bridge and they will flood with water. So anything that you build there, any train tracks, will just explode.
That
Um,
is so cool.
so this is not just this is a very dynamic problem because as you are building your railways, because you see that there are two sides of things here, right? You only have a limited amount of time to actually do that. And a lot of the tracks that you're laying are going to break, so you are forced to relay new tracks as the level goes on because the canal just keeps breaking and breaking and breaking. Um,
That's
and
awesome.
this is the first level that has a completion time of 16 minutes to get the golds, to get the 3 gold stars. And the third star is 30 minutes. So this will tell you just how long this actually is. This is quite an intense uh,
Mm.
level.
I think that that's so there's two things I want to mention before we pop off, but I one is relevant and one is not. The relevant one is I think it's something special about games where they create an experience that you look back on and you're like, that was amazing. And one of the best ways that games do that for me is when they work the environment into something.
Mhm.
Like fighting a boss in a video game where like the water level is rising around you, or like you constantly have to jump from like lava flow to like like bit
Mm.
of magma on a lava flow to another one or something while you fight this. It's just like that is an incredible and awesome experience to like then succeed.
Yeah, yeah. It's oh yeah, there's a Cape Town level in this game. I forgot.
Whoa,
uh,
whoa.
yeah, there's a Cape Town level and a Detroit level
Where you
and
must become human.
yeah, a level called the Mountain of Garbage, New
Discover
Zealand.
the meaning of existence
There's
with
a
trains.
Singapore level, Hyperloop, Rocket to Mars. The Rocket to Mars one is very difficult. I have no stars on that one because it's just a headache.
You have to convince Elon Musk to not go to Mars on that level.
I think yeah. Well, you have
It's wild.
yeah. The Cape Town level is pretty fun though, because I'll just show you guys what it looks like. And actually, they are attempting to model a facsimile of Cape Town because here's the stadium, there's the big stadium, and there's like, I guess a facsimile of downtown, and then for some reason, there's like a bunch of other things, and I guess that's supposed to be Table Mountain over there. Uh,
This is
And
kind of
then
what Cape Town
and
looks
then
like a
there's
little
like a bunch
bit.
of penguins over there.
Hey, okay, now it's Cape Town.
Yeah, and then naturally there's a wind farm over here, and giraffes, little guys. A church over there.
Sorry, it's just the stream was a little bit behind what you were saying, and you like as soon as you said a church over there, you zoomed in on the giraffes, and it's like, well,
Oh, and there's also a
it's no
Harry
fair.
Potter themed level, platform 9 3/4.
I
So
mean, fair.
you gotta go to there's Hogwarts Castle over there, which is a pretty
To be
faithful rendition,
expected.
actually, considering that this is a low. I didn't realize that Hogwarts Castle in the background had an oil well.
Wait, how do you think the school makes its money?
Yeah.
Those wizards are paying in like ancient coins. The school has to pay taxes. They subsidize the land for fracking.
Yeah, oh my god, because they have coal. There's like a copper mine, 2 oil wells. Yeah, it's
This all does take place in Glasgow, so maybe like Hogwarts just says to the Glaswegian government, like, "Hey, we're like wizards, but don't kill us because you can frack in our back garden."
yeah, they have like a magic spell, I guess, for
Holy
counteracting.
shit, that's why it's called the Black Lake. Just oil.
And there, of course, I think this is meant to be London because that's London Bridge. Uh,
That's inaccurate because again, Hogwarts is in like Scotland.
yeah, I guess what the assumption here is that this is a long train track that winds all the way from Scotland to England. But I didn't know that England
I
had
mean,
oil.
it's a fair it's a very good rendition. You're
Yeah,
you're correct. Like it's amazing what they've managed to do in this art style.
like it is recognizable as Hogwarts, which is pretty crazy. Uh, you
Which
know,
actually, this is the second thing that I want to talk about, which is that you and I like we talk shit about games every now and again,
yeah, we've been
like
known
what we
to.
don't like and stuff like that. I was thinking about it the other night, and I think I would probably never want to make a game on my own. I would never want to solo develop a game because it is maybe the most difficult art form, in my opinion, because there are so many moving parts to it.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. I think we should probably be winding down now. Um,
Okay. Thank
but
you so much for watching, everybody.
yeah, thanks everybody. We hope that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, but
This was
before you click off this VOD, please go onto the Byte Marx channel, especially the rest of this week and this weekend, and go and interact with the poll that determines what we're going to be playing on the Monday streams
yes,
for the next long series.
yes. Take a look at that. Watch our videos. I'm pretty happy with the response that I've gotten on the Batman coffee or tea video. Uh, it just goes to show that if you make something weird, people will watch it.
Yeah, I think
uh,
he drinks tea.
I think he drinks tea as well. I don't understand. I mean, I understand, but I don't necessarily agree with the people who think he drinks coffee. That
I just think like Batman's a health nut.
yeah, for me, it's like Batman would drink what Alfred gave him, and Alfred is British, so Alfred would just give him tea, I think, and Batman would just drink tea. And every time you
I
see
think
Alfred, he's always pushing like he always has like a tea set with him. You don't serve
yeah.
coffee from a kettle, right?
I mean, you can.
Okay, well let's not debate that.
You probably wouldn't, but you can. And but my reasoning is that like he he's not the kind of person that would jack himself up on caffeine because he's always like Batman's the kind of guy who's like I need to be calm. I need to look at this thoroughly and keep a cool head and everything. So I think tea would be like the ultimate oh this one has healing properties. This one like helps you think better. This one, you know?
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree.
And I agree with your point. He was trained in Asia. I feel like he would pick up on like tea a lot, especially medicinal tea.
Yeah, definitely. I can't imagine him like doing a hardcore martial arts session and then like, here's your Starbucks, my guy.
Here's a cup of Joe.
Yeah, here's a cup of Joe. I just it just it just doesn't track. But then again, I feel like in a lot
Although
of the movies, Batman is definitely drinking coffee. Uh,
although also like there are martial arts in places that I would mainly drink coffee.
like,
I don't know, what's a there surely is a South American martial art.
oh
Every
yeah,
every place has a martial art is what I'm saying. So, like, I feel like when we say martial arts, we very much only imagine, like, Asia, but martial
uh,
arts are everywhere, you know? So, like, there surely would be, like, a martial art in South America that, like, they would drink coffee afterwards.
I mean, there's capoeira, but
Yeah, what about, Muay Thai isn't South American, is it?
no, no, Muay
No,
Thai
that's
is
Thai.
yeah,
That's
uh,
Thailand.
yeah,
What was I thinking of?
yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't
There's
matter.
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and capoeira.
But
Uh,
there surely must be others. I think there are, I just, like, I do not know of them at the moment, and it is too late in the stream to check.
yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out our stuff, like, comment, subscribe, etc. I hope you have a good one. Take care and goodbye.
So long.